Hello, I'm Dr. Shoshana Garfield, and today you are going to discover what to do if everything you've tried with EFT just doesn't work, if you are just stuck with the same issue, or even if the same issue just keeps coming back again and again and again. And there are several types or categories of blocks. I'm going to talk you through a brief introduction of a few of them, and I've prepared 3 to talk you through and tap along with, as well to explain in more depth and detail. And hopefully we'll have some fun with it. So there are many blocks to having EFT work effectively that you may or may not have heard of on your own in EFT training, and which possibly not even your EFT trainer has heard of. I'm going to run through a few of them. And one of them is the concept that I'm sure you've heard of, psychological reversal, when the energy system is organized against taking in the healing. Another category is general disorganization. And that's when the energy system is so chaotic that the body, the system can't take in the healing, it bounces it back off. And it can be partly addressed through collarbone breathing. And another issue is secondary gains. Secondary gains falls into 2 categories: superficial ones like don't have to do the dishes anymore if I stay sick, and also covering up a really deeply held core issue. And another one can be that it's just too much, way too overwhelming. So the system is protecting itself from that overwhelm by holding off working on the issue. Another one is that it's deeply nonverbal. You may not know this, but there are actually memories that are stored that will always be consciously inaccessible. So you need the tapping and ways of talking to your unconscious in order to access those memories in ways that work for your system. And another category is curses and vows, not the black cauldron witch or wizard kind of curse, but more like something like my dad saying, "Oh, we're never good with money in this family," and so guess what I had to tap on for a while. And vows, saying things like, "Oh, I'm never going to let that happen again," but that includes far too much that was unintended over a period of time. So that's another thing to clear up. Another one are forgiveness issues, and there are many, many, many categories within this, such as I can't let this go because justice won't be done. If I let go of this, then I make it okay. This is too big for me to let go of because what happened was just so bad. That sort of thing. Many issues involved with that. Another one is a very deep, deep level of acknowledgement. Do you ever see a kid on the playground and they get hurt, and all they need to start off their whole releasing process is to just have some empathy. Gosh, this was really hard for you. And then it could be taken from there. That deep acknowledgement, very, very critical to many, many aspects of my work. Another one is working on something, but the core issue hasn't yet been discovered. So you've got a core issue, but you're kind of like picking off bits around it, but not really getting to where you really need to go. And related to that is tapping on what may be a presenting issue, such as procrastination, but that's not the right issue, as in what's being procrastinated over, as it were, is actually something very wrong for the person to do. So being able to get to what's really the issue for the client instead of what they want to tap on, what they need to tap on. And there's a lot more. And so in order to help you with these kinds of blocks and problems and many, many more, I have compiled and distilled out 54 separate tips for you with details about what they are, how to address them, and phrases to tap on. I've picked out two of them are very common ones, and one strategy. And to set it up, I would like to first tap with you on, feel free to select an issue for you. And whether or not the things we tap on today are exactly relevant for this problem, may this tapping cascade through your system, watching and cleaning through this particular block on anything that is worthwhile for you and your highest best interest to clear. That's the blessing for this tapping session here. Okay. The first one, you've got an oath to keep the problem. So as I began to mention earlier, it could be that it's very protective. You never want something like that to happen again. So what you tap on is, even though I have an oath to keep this problem, I now allow my system to know that it is time and it is safe now to release this oath of keeping this problem and allow my system to release this from all of my energy system. Very, very simple way to address it. Sometimes you may need more detective work to find out why you're keeping an oath, if it doesn't feel like it unlocks. If you also know muscle testing, you can muscle test if you've got one, or if you've released it with even that simple setup phrase. Okay? Very, very simple, but very, very powerful. Okay? The next one, not knowing who one is without an issue or a problem. It goes to the very core of identity. And again, it could be one of these things that either takes a lot of detective work to really unravel the layers of, or can be ever so simple to release. Because it's not about how big the block is, it's about the complexity. If it's complex, it's going to need little bits taken out. If it's simple, even if it's huge, a simple tapping phrase will take the whole edifice down. So for identity issues, even though I don't even know who I am without this issue, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And I allow myself to know in every corner of my being, in every cell of my being, to know who I am without this problem or issue, and to know that I am someone good without it and worthy. So that's an example of how it may be even that simple to release a whole raft of identity blockages. Okay? The third one is a strategy. It's tapping on a metaphor. It's useful in very many situations. It could be useful when there's just too much overwhelm. It could be useful when there's uncertainty over what memory there is. It could be used when there's not necessarily uncertainty, but just a huge amount of complexity over an issue, because as the saying goes, a picture is as good as 1,000 words. So what you do is, for yourself or your client, tap, because of course tapping allows a deeper connection with the subconscious mind. If this reminded you of something, what would it be? And see what becomes. And it could be an image. And it could also be suggesting the visual. So for instance, I've got this problem, and I allow myself to know what the landscape of this problem looks like in my unconscious mind. And then describe it, or even draw it as richly as appropriate for you. And then once that process is done, allow yourself to ask the loving and gentle question, what does this landscape need to heal? And what often comes up, it may be different for you, what often comes up are landscapes of blight and barrenness, or really, really bad weather. So for instance, it might be, this land needs nourishing rain. You can imagine the rain coming down and really use rich imagery and the smell in the air and add in more senses to it. And watch the land regenerate itself. Now what can happen is that, for instance, if we continue with the example we've already used, the rain can come down, but then it soaks it up and nothing much happens. What you've got there is a metaphorical reversal. So in which case you'd ask, what needs to happen in order for the land to accept this change or this healing? What needs to happen in order for this land to accept the nourishment in the rain? And just allow the answers to come forth. And it may tie into other things. So for instance, it may tie into something we mentioned earlier about acknowledgement. Maybe the land needs empathy. This land needs empathy for how bad it was. This was terrible. I'm so sorry this happened, land. I'm so sorry. I really acknowledge how hard it was. I'm here for you now. I'm here for you with nourishing rain. Here's some rain for you. beautiful land, still beautiful underneath all the seeming damage. It was so hard for you. It was so hard. For instance. So these were 3 specific tips I have for you on how to work through blocks on your emotional problems, 3 out of 54. If these have been helpful to you, please feel free to visit my website on www.unlimitedemotionalfreedom.com, and you can access about 90 to date videos that I've got on various aspects of emotional issues, as well as some articles and links to some other really cool sites as well. With heartfelt best wishes for your journey to complete emotional freedom. Bye for now.